YouTube
worse.
notification. Watch live now.
Let's
Dialed
do that.
podcast.
Let's watch live now.
Hey, there we are.
Boom.
Bam. Errors and omissions. Something about one of, and I don't know what episode it was. Some sort of minivan reference that you were calling it, like the Nissan Sienna or and it was like the Toyota Sienna. I don't remember. Let me look at my.
Oh, but somebody called us out?
Someone called you out.
Good. Seriously?
Yeah, Sean. Lance keeps saying Toyota Sentra. Good God, man! It's the Sentra is from Nissan.
Okay, fair enough.
Sean?
I had no idea what kind of car it was.
I don't even remember what's talking.
Was that Sean? Who was that?
Sean and
Yes.
Sean and Shelley. Yes. I'm not sure
Good
when
God,
we
man.
talked about that. Yeah, Sean's
It
hilarious.
was
He is
when
awesome.
it was the people who picked me up in Joshua Tree.
Oh, yeah.
The Toyota Sentra, and that's a Nissan.
I'm so excited to listen to this tonight now.
All right.
Yeah, Sean. We should actually have Sean on the podcast sometime when we can.
Sean's so much funnier than us.
He's
We really should.
hilarious.
Yeah.
He would be fun for sure.
We should start having like team father-son combos. Come on.
We've
We've already had Lance and
I think
Lake on.
next
I
week.
had all my kids on.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, boys, you ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's do this. Hi, and welcome to the Dial Podcast. I am Jake Von During. Today I'm here with Lance Epler.
Lance Romance in studio.
In studio.
To his right, Evan Price.
How's it going? Actually back in the studio.
Yeah.
And not in sunny California.
Yep.
Yeah. And to Evan's right, Matt LeGrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? How are you guys doing?
Well,
It is
Fantastic.
nice to have the gang.
Look at this.
back at the table.
We're
Back in
all
town.
in the studio together again. It's been a
the
month.
boys are
been a
back
month.
in
I was just going to say,
And
how
it
long
is
has it been?
barely snowing
The
outside.
boys
It's been a month.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to.
I know.
Some
I was
boys
getting
are back in
comfortable in
town.
Lance's chair over there. Yeah.
It has been a while.
It's a good angle.
Yeah, it shines well on your face, huh? All right, let's get started on our back pedal. And I want to start with Evan because Evan had a really cool weekend, and I want to hear all about it. So bring it, Evan. Back pedal for us.
There was not a lot of biking this weekend for me. Like some people are sitting at this table who put in a ridiculous amount of miles.
When you say there's not been a lot of biking, does that mean like I only put in 75 miles?
So I this last week took I wouldn't call it actually a down week because I kind of ramped up the intensity. But at the end of the week, I had the Vancouver Lake Half Marathon, which is an awesome little like gem of a race in
Yeah.
this region. It really is.
It's nice and small. Lance,
Yeah.
have you done that one?
I have done it twice, I believe,
Yeah.
but it was
long-
a decade ago.
How long has that race been around?
It's been around like 30 years.
I
That's
don't-
awesome.
I know it's been a decade, but I don't think that race has changed much.
No,
I
it's
think
the
it's
same
pretty-
course, same deal.
Same
That's
idea.
really cool that something like that stays around for that long
Yeah.
and kind of stays the way that it originally was.
nice and small.
Yeah.
And
Really,
course-
really well put together,
And it's
too.
always that money for that has always gone to like local area scholarships
Yeah.
for like high school
yeah.
to collegiate athletes or something.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Very affordable race and
Mm-hmm.
very fast race too. This year, so I raced this last year. Last year I went 118, and that was not, the field wasn't quite as fast as it was this year. It was a good field last year, but I think last year I was like 7th at 118. I think 118 this year would have put me almost 20th. I mean, like would have put me way back. Yeah,
It's weird that maybe people are starting to figure out that race is like a nice little.
it's a really good early season race. Yeah,
nice little snag. 'Cause
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a fast
flat.
course.
It's
Yeah.
flat.
This year had more turns. They actually
really?
changed the course this year.
It looked like they started in a different spot.
Yeah, definitely a little bit more winding to start. Kind of added a cool little component because I think it broke up early. It definitely broke up early. And I was racing it with Quinn, who I've been training with a bunch lately, who Matt and me have talked about on the podcast before. And we had a race plan, and we were basically going to go out conservative and just work our way down.
Yeah.
And we were lucky that when we got to the line, we looked around, and there's two big teams with some pro runners on them, Bowerman Track Club and Jacuzzi. which I think are both from Portland. Matt, do you know?
I don't know.
I never
anything about
heard
the
of Jacuzzi.
group.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they
They were
they're
fast.
Clearly,
They were under 110 guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Bowerman guys obviously are solid and
Yeah.
good group and training from Beaverton, Nike headquarters.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a fast region. But yeah, race went out. You know, me and Quinn stayed conservative, and we got this nice little group of 4 or 5 guys to start who we just started clicking down from about 550 immediately clicked down to that 540. And we held that until all of a sudden 2 guys decided they wanted to start going real fast. And we dropped a 530 mile kind of out of nowhere.
Wow.
And we dropped another 530 mile. And then that's when really the race started to pick up.
Yeah.
And we bridged a gap to some guys in front of us. And we dropped, I think, a 528 mile there at one point. That's when I started to hurt, which I think it was funny. Quinn and I had predicted that the race was going to start at mile 8, and I think mile 8 was the 528 mile. Like that was when this kid who was in our group just decided he was gonna really push the pace.
I feel like that's smart racing. Like
it was. Yeah.
This was not like a high school or young college guy. These people were like, this is what we do. We know how to race this distance, and you typically do that. You'll go out a little bit more mellow, especially if you have space, like in a race like that. That's not too crazy. Yeah, and then you get into a groove, and then
I think we had a Multnomah College kid and a Portland State kid out in front of us, and they went out with the Jacuzzi boys to start, which was. I'm sure if they were to do it again, they wouldn't do that because I'm sure their first mile was like 5:10, 5:15. They were flying. And we brought them back in around mile 8 or 9. And then just at that point in the race, it was so scattered and the moves were so strong that it was, once you caught and passed somebody, they were tanked because they had tried to hang on to that front group. Got to be the equivalent of like in a crit, guys just going breakaway speed the first 5 laps, and then guys just getting kicked out the back as that group's coming through. And
I like how you try to like translate this over to cycling.
I know, yeah.
I bridged up to the pack.
Yeah,
well, like, no.
It's so different in running, as Matt knows. It's such a slow process to bridge that
You're
gap.
Like, I passed this person. They were done.
They were done.
Running is so much easier.
Yeah. And it's one of those days, I'm sure everybody at this table's had it, where you just get lucky and your legs feel awesome the entire race. So I was able to keep on pushing, and we actually ended up catching and dropping the guy who made the move at mile 8. He really was struggling the last 5K with just how strong he was running the whole race. And I kind of started to realize, I was like, oh man, I may have a chance to go under 113 here. And I just didn't have the legs the last mile. It really started to hurt the last mile.
What was the last mile?
It was like,
is the last mile the same as the old course?
So they changed it, and
that might be good because that last mile wasn't that fast.
Yeah, well, in this one, because they took you on the trail that goes in, the dirt trail. Yeah. And I was surprised with how the dirt did not feel good at that point. It was a little bit harder to run on the kind of uneven gravel dirt. And especially when your legs are tanked, that definitely did not feel awesome. I think the last 800 meters was gravel. And we came through, and I think I came through at like 5:38 that last mile, somewhere
Solid.
Like that.
You didn't fall apart.
No, and it's felt okay, and came through the finish line and was pretty happy with it.
Yeah,
had enough in the legs to go for a swim and bike after that, luckily.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So was it easy swim and bike, or?
Actually, I put some intervals in there.
In the bike.
Legs just felt good.
Yeah.
It was fine. I was telling Cassie after the race, I was telling Cassie and Quinn, the only thing that hurt was my jaw and my right arm. No idea why. That was literally after the race. I could not.
Hanging your mouth open the whole time?
I could not raise my right arm above my head until I got in the pool and started swimming, and it loosened up, and I was fine. But I was worried. I was like, did I just tear my? Like, I literally had a thought. I was like, I may have just tear my rotator cuff during that race. I have no idea how.
Too much stress, maybe.
I think I was really tense because it was cold at the start.
Yeah.
Warmed up quick. It was fine, but
good. So the weather was okay.
Yeah, it ended up being fine because it was not predicted to be okay.
And I saw a lot of people ran PRs, so not just you. There was other people.
Oh
that
yeah,
did well.
It was a good race day. Definitely.
The temperature at the start of that was in the upper 30s, correct?
Yeah, and then it got into like low 40s, which is perfect.
Pretty ideal.
And you're out there in your tank top and your running shorts.
Yep, running shorts and gloves.
But you heat up quick. It's not like biking.
Yeah.
Mile one, I was warm. Yeah.
Do they ever do any like breakaway layers and just chuck them on the side of the road? Does that happen, or is that?
Yeah.
You'll
Especially
see
that race to be
that.
They had a drop station.
The Matt guy I was telling you about, the older guy who races Boston each year and is really does well at Boston. He ran with our group for a bit, and he he tried to break away from us, and he kind of pointed at his heels and told me, he was like, Evan, come on, let's go. And I was like, I'm not going at whatever pace this guy's going at now. And he kind of pops his shirt off and just ran holding his shirt the entire time. So it was warm enough for Matt to literally run without his shirt on. Poor guy had he had done like a 24-mile run the day before. So we brought him back and then dropped him out. But I mean, he's got some serious miles in his legs.
Wow.
So yeah.
Then what about the week? Were you a little down? Were you under 20 hours for the week? Or?
Yeah. I think I was at like 14 or 15 hours for the week.
Okay, that's like that's a realistic week.
Yeah.
That's a human, like a normal human.
And we'll see. These next 3 weeks will be
another block.
Hard. Yeah, hard. So we'll see if I can maintain.
You went for a swim this morning?
Yep, went for a swim.
4K?
Yeah, 4K on the dot. Yep.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. And that was my week in chilly, cold Vancouver, Washington.
Yes.
We missed you, Evan.
Yes, we did.
I missed the heck out of you guys, trust me.
Matt, backpedal for us.
Okay, so we did our previous podcast, and so you guys have heard a little bit about the training camp. But right after that podcast, we did basically like a scheduled rest day, and we scheduled it based on the weather, which was predicted to be a pretty rainy day, which I think it was, and I think it even sleeted in Southern California that day. I was able to sneak out for a swim and a run, which was okay. I mean, it wasn't the greatest conditions or pool for that particular event or whatever, but it was super fun. Like I had a blast. The next day was absolutely epic. And this was kind of like the last hurrah of our training camp. And so the ride was scheduled, if you guys listen to the last podcast, we had this house for the training camp, basically up a 1,000-foot climb over like 2 miles, like just ridiculous last finishing hill. Oh my God.
Who planned that?
Yeah, it was crazy.
I don't think we realized it was the top of a hill when they booked it.
What?
So,
but it was good. It ended up being good.
The scheduled ride was, I think it was an 86-mile route with, I want to say maybe 8,500 feet of climbing.
Yeah, 8,500 feet of climbing.
Okay, and that finishes at the bottom of the hill, and the expectation was like you get in a car and you can drive back up to the house because we're all going to be tanked or whatever. And it was just one. I mean, like all of us were kind of already like, well, we'll probably bike up, and we'll be so close to 10,000 feet that a lot of us are going to want to, make it to 10,000 feet.
Of course, yeah.
And because so you're at 86 miles and you climb back up, you're pretty close to 90. A lot of us are like, well, you might want to hit 100 and 10,000. So this is the discussion that's going on, and I was just like, I don't know, like maybe I'll bail out mid-ride, maybe, like I just didn't know how I was going to feel after having biked all week. But all of us were pretty optimistic, I think.
Yeah.
And we got out there, and the climbs were just beautiful, long, like steep climbs that just went forever. Super cool. I had a blast, and like probably, 20, 30 miles into it, I just started feeling good, like really good. Mm-hmm. Like climbing. Like I climbed away from, you guys weren't a part of this because you guys were up front, but I was climbing away from people that I had no business climbing away from them, just like tapping it out, you get into that groove and you're just like, yeah, it was awesome. Probably like one of the longer climbs or whatever. I just felt good the whole time. And I know it's still early or whatever in the ride, but I mean, it was nice to have a decent day. And then at one point I caught up to like, we had these different groups. I caught up to, we kind of regrouped or whatever. I was with like Jake's group, and we had a really nice group going. We were going pretty mellow, and we caught up to the fast group, and they were taking off. They were like, all right, we're going to go push on for the next big loop or whatever. And Jake's like, yeah, I'll go, with the fast group. And I'm like, I should not go with these guys.
But did you?
I went with
yes.
It's like so dumb, right? Like,
yes.
Like the brain just turns off.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
you had
sure.
one too many endorphins in the system right there. We're like, no, I got this.
We were already over 60 miles into the ride at that point. And I just did the best I could. And I think everyone like gets like my ability levels. Like we all know kind of where everyone is. And it's like, I know they know that I'm not the strongest rider, and that's okay. Like I feel like that was all week long. It was like, this is where I am. This is the situation. Like, I'll push off the front when things slow down for whatever reason. Then you guys can catch me later. And it was just, I felt like it was just okay with everyone that I wasn't the fastest biker. But I did have a really nice ride that day, and I got to ride with Jake. Like, we did a nice long block together.
We did, yeah.
And it was just, I just was thinking to myself, like, I am so thankful that I get to ride. Like, I rode with Lance a little bit that day, but I was like, I'm so thankful that I get to sit around and chill out with Jake and ride, like, in these beautiful, like, hills and climbs and stuff like that. And we were just chatting and, you know, trying to suffer through some
Matt got his ear full of all the factoids of where I used to live and
That's
all the things
awesome.
I used to do down there and see.
And then I think I was hurting pretty bad towards the end, and Jake was like, you know, I think I'm just going to go ride over and grab a Mexican Coca-Cola, you know, with real sugar. And he was like, and then, you know, I'll be able to finish out 100 miles. And I'm like, no, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. You know, I was like, I am going to climb up to the house, but that's enough. And then like 5-10 minutes later, you had done an additional climb that you had added on some more stuff. But then, like, you know, we were riding together and I was like, I'll go with you. You know, it's like, I'll do it. And so I ended up with 101. And I think I only got like 9,400 feet of climbing. But it was still a ridiculous day, right?
That's
like
awesome.
It was probably 7+ hours of biking like that day.
It was
7.5 or something.
I think it was just shy of 7 hours, but it was pretty darn close to 7 hours
Right.
on the button.
And I'm sure there's difference between like total ride time and like, you know, actual biking, you know, versus stop and stuff.
Sure.
But it was a long, awesome ride, and I was pretty pumped about that.
I don't think you have any reason to be nervous about your training going into Whistler. No, I really don't see any reason that you can't like be able to put in some awesome bike blocks.
A lot of people are kind of, you know, and I mean, coming into this training block or whatever, you know, I've been thinking about Whistler obviously all the time, and I'm like, you know, if things don't go great, like training has not been going well so far, and it's like, if things don't go well, like I can go participate in that race, and I think I'll be fine. Like I might enjoy it even more. But after this trip, I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, it's February, and I've done a nice big block, and like if Lance was like, hey, let's go do, you know, 80 miles on Saturday, like I could do it. Like I know I'm, you know, and that's huge because that usually doesn't happen. I don't usually get there until basically May.
Tons of time. You have I mean, there is so much time before
yeah.
Whistler now.
So
Matt was even commenting on that while we were out riding about how it kind of broke down some mental and physical barriers for him.
Right.
He knows now. It's like, all right, I've got that in my back pocket. That's not a problem. And this was a big week for me.
This
so
is why
it's pretty nice.
triathletes planning to do Ironmans should go on cycling teams training
Yeah.
camps.
Yeah.
If you want to get over that bike mental block, just go out there and ride with the best.
yeah, it was super fun. I had a blast. And then, let's see, got back, you know, I did, I think, a little run on the flight day and took a ton of videos and a ton of stuff that I just need to sift through and work on. And then yesterday,
We had some fun stuff with the video.
yeah, we totally had a blast. And
We
then,
did.
I did a long run with my, well, it wasn't really very long. We did an 8-miler on the trails yesterday in the snow and stuff.
I saw that, yeah.
It was nice.
Looked cold.
Super nice, yeah. Swam today, and it was the swim was kind of a bust because, you know, outdoor pool
I was kind of bummed about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we'll make up for it.
Yeah.
We'll get
We'll be back in.
Try and get the swimming back rolling, and
We'll get the crew back in town. I think we both put in a good set today by ourselves, but well, you were swimming with the group, weren't you?
mine was a bust. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to ease back into the swimming a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you needed a week down. You had a bunch of high volume swim weeks, so
Yeah. So I'm super pumped with my previous week. I think depending on like when you start the week and in the week, it's like over 27 hours of training for the week, which is ridiculous for me. That's, you know, going from 15 to 27 is a big jump.
Yeah.
So
Start calling you Evan Price.
yeah. You toasted me this week.
That's what I was thinking. I was
toasted me.
like, this is Evan's every like normal week,
Just like a Tuesday for Evan.
and he fits in like work. Like that's just so crazy, and a life like working.
I will say 300 whatever miles of it is usually not on the bike. So.
Lance, you want to backpedal for us?
Sure.
Bring it.
You know,
Speaking of stats here, let's hear numbers.
I gotta say, as this week went on, I just got more confident and more. I just felt better about my abilities and being able to hang with the fast guys, and it was so encouraging for me to be able to do this week and just to kind of connect with our teammates a bit better. I loved it. I just absolutely loved it. we buried ourselves a couple of days, and it was just fantastic. So I very much enjoyed it. The my stats for the week ended up being, it was 31 hours of cycling.
Jeez.
What was your canoeing time too? Weren't you kayaking at one point?
Yeah, screwing around in the pond.
We'll put you at 33 hours then for that.
But it was 31 hours on the bike. It was 532 miles of riding and 45,000 feet of climbing over the week.
That is very comparable to some Grand Tour weeks. Like, that's not that far off from a couple Grand Tour weeks.
Well, I tell you, as Matt was talking about this last day, and that last day, I was out there for about 6.5 hours, and I did 110 miles and 11,500 feet of climbing in that last day.
So ridiculous.
And as the day wore on, I felt better and better.
Yeah.
We got to this one segment, and I was 95 miles into the ride, and it was a 5.5 mile segment that was gradually uphill, and I ended up dropping everybody.
That's what I thought was interesting, was like
that doesn't actually surprise me with the volume that you've been putting over the last 15 months.
And I was watching some of your climbs and stuff like that, and I was like, Lance, I don't really consider you a climber.
No.
But like I was like,
we might have to reclassify Clance here.
I know.
Really.
But I was like, but there he is. Like, he's ahead of people I'm not expecting him to be ahead of. Like, this is just neat to watch.
I wasn't expecting to be able to hang with some of the climbers that I did, and just the volume, and as my body composition has changed a little bit, I've just been able to hang up there. So the pure climbers, no, there was no chance.
Well, and it depends on the grade of things and all this different stuff, but like the climb home was very steep.
Yes.
Well, in that front group, I mean, if we're talking about Jordan, Jordan, Paul, and Chris were probably the top group up there.
Yeah, Chris Hannell and
who else
Chris
was up there with him?
Surratt was up there.
Okay.
Hatfield was
and
up
John
there.
Hatfield.
Yep.
Okay, you're talking about that group, especially Jordan out of that group. That's some of the best amateur cycling climbers in the Oregon, Washington area. I mean, those are
absolutely.
I'd put those guys in the top 10, 15.
And you're there just hanging, and you're Cat 5.
I'm a Cat 5. Yes, I am a Cat 5.
Let's just put that sticker on your back.
You're that guy that force hate because they're like in the 4-5 races, and they're like, there's going to be some ridiculous Cat 5 guy who's been racing cross for too long that comes over here and kills everybody.
Yeah. The funnest part was at the end of this 110-mile ride.
And it was in Funner.
It was Funner. Yeah, we did go through the town of Funner, California.
Yeah.
It's not too far from Mount Palomar. Anyway, at the very end of this ride, we have this last sprint segment, and we talked about it. We talked about it last week a little bit. Mm-hmm. And here we are 110 miles into the ride, and me and Chris Hannell and Chris Surratt, who were all kind of riding in the front group all week, they both come to me and go, "Hey, Lance, let's lead you out for this final segment and see if you can get the KOM back."
110 miles into this ride?
110 miles into the ride.
This is like the into the house, basically.
This is the last half mile into the house.
Rollers into the house.
And they both like led me out beautifully, and I ended up getting the KOM by like 5 seconds, which was great.
Which is big on like a minute and a half or whatever that thing was.
It was like a minute and 12 seconds, and I averaged like 450 watts.
Southern California KOM sprint, 110 miles into a ride.
There's a backstory to that. This particular KOM was basically team specific because it was into the house.
Yeah.
So it's not like Cannondale riders are like out there doing this one. Okay.
There was like 2 other people who had ever ridden through
there. Correct.
Crushed them.
But it ended up being like a little team thing. Everybody kept going for it at the end, and I ended up getting it. But
I mean, it was you had a hammer at the end of 110 miles. So
yes.
That would be with Lance's training. The KOM that he would get would be the one at the end of a ridiculously long ride, a dead sprint.
It was fantastic. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. On our easy day, or the rest day, when Matt went swimming and running, Jake and I and 5 others, we drove up to Orange County, and we did this Back Bay ride, which was just beautiful. But I mean, and it was like 50 miles, like 47 miles, and it just felt easy.
Yeah.
which was, you know, you don't expect that.
It's nice when like 50 miles is starting to be our like, oh yeah.
Oh, that's a recovery day.
Yeah, it's just a recovery
That's
day.
a good thing.
Yeah, at the end of that ride, you just felt like your whole body had this sense of like calm and just like relaxation over it. And like, wait a second, I just rode for however long, over almost 50 miles, and I feel fantastic right now. So it was the perfect recovery day.
So I've been tracking my recovery with this Whoop strap, and I had been in like terrible red numbers for a couple of days because we were just flogging ourselves. After that 50-mile ride that day, I was at 85% the next morning.
Wow.
I had like fully bounced back after a easy day in the saddle, which was only 50 miles, but it was flat.
Yeah.
But
that's showing really good fitness. If you're able to, I mean, the quicker obviously you can bounce back. It's the same idea with heart rate variability. Like the quicker that variability returns, the fitter you are.
we were all just geeking out on numbers all week long, which was just super fun. But I loved it. I had just had a great time. Too much fun.
Training camp, good times.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll backpedal real quick here, and I don't want to go through all of this because this could be a lot of rinse and repeat of what you guys had said, but the ride in Orange County was definitely fantastic. We started, gosh, it was about a half mile from where I used to live. So it was in a parking lot where I could have walked to my old house and saw some old neighbors and whatnot. That was great. That was fun. And the little French cafe or bakery place that we went to and got a nice little, was it a croissant, like a chocolate croissant?
It was a chocolate croissant, and Jake and I bought one to split one, and I ate half of it and got back in line and bought another one.
Absolutely. Why would you split a croissant? Are you kidding me? That's
So, yeah, 110 miles and 10,600 feet in climbing for me in one day. That was an accomplishment. I mean, my legs felt fantastic that day. My neck and my shoulder, not so much. And I'll talk with you more about that later.
Yeah,
but it was all of the descending that really kind of did me, and I started getting some unpleasant feelings in there. But I started taking easy on that. In that process, like after a descent, the lead group would just ride away, and I was fine with that. And Matt made for a fantastic training partner. He actually pushed me for quite a few miles through there, just like you sat in front of me, and he made a good little pacer. So it was fun riding with him and chatting and talking and telling stories. And to finish that day, like Lance said, as the day went on, I felt stronger and stronger.
It's crazy to me. Like, because you have been relegated to the trainer.
Think about where you were 9 months ago. Now you're hanging on this trip. I mean, this is not your typical cycling training camp. Like the numbers you guys put out are not like, this isn't the like go out there and hang out sort of training camp. Like you guys put in some serious miles.
Yeah. I only went home that day because everybody was going out to dinner that night, and it was getting close to that time.
Yeah.
I could have gone out there and done the
Kept
whole
going.
the whole climb over and over again.
Because I saw you and I was like, where's he going? Like I need to go. I need to quit. And like you were just riding off into the sunset.
Well, he's back home in his stomping ground. I mean, that's like mentally that had to be very
cool
therapeutic too.
You could tell I was done. I mean, I was at the end of my
That
rope.
Mexican Coke though, that tasted good.
Oh, it was good.
And that gave you a nice little pop there.
It was good for about a mile and a half.
I was looking at the flybys on that last ride where me and Chris had hooked up to do that very last segment.
Yeah.
We missed you by like yards at
Really?
an intersection where we turned around to kind of gear up to speed into this
the
final
KOM
segment.
thing?
Yeah.
I think I saw you guys just a flagging second of you, and I kept going straight back
You
to
went
that
up to the
that water
water
tower.
tank, yeah.
People are listening to this going, what in the world are they talking about? Like, just shut up and get to the point here. Anyway, it was a great day. It was nice to come home yesterday all day long. I even told my wife a couple times, I'm like, I feel like I need to be going for a ride. She's like, do you know how much you just rode this past week? I'm like, yeah, I know, but I feel like I need to go for a ride. Do I go ride on the trainer? Do I go build my bike back up and throw it on there? It was kind of crappy weather yesterday. Do I maybe get on the mountain bike and go ride on some of the gravel trails out there so I don't ruin any trails? And I'm like, no, just hang out, just stay at home, just be with your family. And all day long, I wanted to get on the bike. And then I woke up this morning and then it kind of hit. I'm like, okay, I'm freaking tired. So that part did set in today. So, but it's nice to be home. again, I still can't believe I drink a Mexican Coke, you guys. I haven't had a Coca-Cola in decades.
Yeah.
That was nuts. Sorry, just to throw that in there one more time. All right,
you did unbelievable. I mean, I just thinking like, you're how much you just done the trainer. Like you just
pretty much. I did 4 rides outside leading into that whole training camp.
And how many miles you put in for the week?
Oh, for me,
over 400.
It was 452. 452. So
452.
yeah.
What is that, like 23, 24 hours? 25 hours because you guys were climbing a ton, probably.
Actually, I had 27 and a half hours.
27 just because, tons of climbing.
Lots and lots of climbing.
At one point, I was out
Tons of
riding, and I
climbing,
was
yeah.
like, I came through 26.2, and I looked at my watch, and I was like, I've run faster than this.
That wasn't my marathon PR.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that's sad.
We went to get a cup of coffee on the last day and rode at a leisurely pace, and it was still 2,000 feet of climbing.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts? It was, what, 22
I'd
miles
be
or
like
something like that?
I'd be like
22
happy
miles,
with that day around
and
here
it was
right now.
2,000 feet of climbing.
I've had 0 feet of climbing on my trainer rate lately.
For every 10, like everywhere we rode, every 10 miles we rode, we gained 1,000 feet of elevation gain on average. That was our average. So it was a lot of climbing.
Ridiculous.
It was kind of nuts. So, all right, today's topic: things we are curious about and why. And this can be just about anything with respect to cycling, running, triathlon, getting into things like products, events, gear, tech, and anything. So I'm going to run around the table. I'm just curious to see what you guys are kind of curious about, because there's a lot of things kind of like starting to pop up that are like, hey, you know what, that could actually turn into something and be something kind of neat. Or there could be some, re-releases of certain things, just like, the SRAM, the Access drivetrains that just came out. I mean, we
on
talked.
my list.
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
sure.
Sorry. So there's a lot of like cool things coming up, and I think that we're starting to see another little push in terms of like technology and changes on the horizon. So I'm curious to think what or hear what you guys have been thinking and what you've been reading about and what you're curious to see coming down the pipeline. So, Lance, you want to start us off?
My first question, and I've never had one on a bike that I've used regularly, is dropper seat posts on mountain bikes.
Yeah.
So what's really the advantage of the dropper seat post? And this may be a question for beginners,
This is a good question for
I don't know.
triathletes.
Yeah.
Well, they're for speed, right? Like you drop down, you're lower, you have lower center of gravity.
It's exactly that. It's for when you're getting into more of the technical riding and you need to get your butt back over the saddle. You don't want the saddle coming up and hitting you in the stomach. You don't want the saddle to be in the way. You want to be able to get your center of gravity a little bit lower so you can be more agile when you're going down a lot of the different terrains. And what's nice is if once you have it set, you'll hit a little button and the seat will actually come right back up to your normal ride height, so that you have the ability to push it down, get it out of the way, hit that button, it's right back exactly where you dialed it into, so that you're not having to dink around with it to figure out exactly what your saddle height was. Exactly.
Okay.
So
I feel like Global Cycling Network's YouTube channel did like, what about dropper seat posts for road biking? Like it was super. Did you see that one? It may or may. I think that's what was on there. You guys can look it up and see
When
if
you
I'm
think
wrong.
For like descending versus climbing.
Yeah, exactly.
Descending on a road bike
Oh.
and dropping your seat like to get lower. It was interesting.
That's cool.
It's pretty
that
cool.
could be quite
Well, I
interesting.
mean, because you have people sitting on the sitting on their
sitting
frame,
on the top tube.
right?
Yeah.
On the top tube, which we all know is a little sketch.
It is
But
sketchy.
I feel like every year the Pro Peloton, there's more people doing it.
I did it several times this week.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
It's fun because we were going.
It's different in Peloton riding.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, like pure Peloton. Like if you're out there with like 7 guys descending, you guys got some space between each other. Like, I mean,
And we
Yeah.
had like a highway worth of space on some of those descending
Yeah.
spots. Like, I don't know. What did you max out at?
55 miles an
55?
hour.
Yeah. I hit 47, I think. That's fast.
It's
fast. Yep.
fast.
So
You had a dropper seat post, you could have gone 60.
Yeah.
dropper
Could've been-
seat posts, though, they're pretty cool, and you're starting to see bike manufacturers actually integrate them into the frame, so you're not having to deal with all the external wires. You're not having to deal with the installation process of actually getting the thing set up and working properly.
Yeah.
And I think based on the way that they're able to integrate them in there, you might be having some weight savings as well. So there's a little bike that's right behind Evan that people can't see right now, but it has an integrated seat dropper post into it, and you can't tell other than the fact that there is a lever up there on the bars to adjust it.
It's a nice
up
BMC.
and down. Yeah, it's a very nice BMC.
Yeah.
That's going to be my bicycle, and I'm very excited to go out and ride it and play with it. And this will actually be the first bike that I've ever had, mountain bike that is, with the dropper seat post in it.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, first time. I've installed a bunch of them and I've ridden on them before and played with them. But
how do you think your shoulder will hold up on some of the mountain biking stuff?
The reason why I'm telling you this is because last week proved to me that I can get out and ride on the dirt, and my doc told me that it's okay for me to go out and start doing it. And granted, I didn't feel like perfect last week. I had some moments, but with a little bit of stretching and icing and just resting, it came back around, and it's doing its thing. I'm curious to see, like, because I go in to see Evan for physical therapy tomorrow. I'm curious to see what the measurements come in at after what we did. But I'm ready to go out and start riding on some dirt, and I'll ease my way into it. And I think that that's going to help me build some more strength. One of the biggest things that I saw a difference in was just being able to ride out of the saddle. And being able to rock the bike back and forth. Like, I really my shoulder was fatigued at the end of the day. Yeah. Rest and wake up the next morning, and sometimes it was a touch sore, but it felt better as the camp went on. So I'm starting to get that component back. So knowing that, that's why I'm ready to go out and ride the mountain bike again.
I mean, you had to get out of the saddle, right?
That is
some of the climbs that we were
that's
doing.
almost better than we could have hoped for, Jake. The fact that it was recovering each day. I mean, even if there's still that major fatigue in there, that's still...
The final climb home, it was like 2.5 to 3 miles. God. Well, just the climbing component was about 2 miles.
What did it cap out at?
17-18% grade. Okay. There was three sections.
Yeah.
3 sections of 18%.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you basically, I mean, and there was they found a hill that was even steeper coming up to the house a different way.
It was longer. It was 1,700 feet, and it had 6 sections of 17% or higher.
There's no shortage of climbing down there.
I'm getting killed on group rides here in the next couple of weeks.
You'll be fine.
So anyway. All right.
So that was my big question. I know that I need to add it to my mountain bike. I think it will speed me up on descents, because I'm not that good of a descender on my mountain bike, because I don't take those chances on my mountain bike, because I've crashed so many times on my mountain bike. But that's one thing that I think I wanted to add, and I just wanted this group's.
Yeah, we just got set up with Pacific Northwest Components, and they do dropper seat posts, specifically do them. And they work extremely well in the BMC that you have, the 4-stroke. Yeah. We put one in Whitney Phillips' bike, and he loves it. He thinks it's rock solid, and there's a bunch of other people that have had them as well from that particular company that like them a lot. That's why we sought them out, and they hooked the team up. So kind of neat.
Sign me up. I need one.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome.
Evan.
Since I'm obviously not our gear tech expert in this group, I've got a question for what the beginning of the Obra road season looks like. Obra race season, like what is it? I know it's changed a little bit since last year, correct? Yeah, and just kind of what the schedule looks like going through May, we'll say.
So for people that are new listeners and things like that, the Obra system is like our local bike kind of governing body group, and it's the Oregon Bike Racing Association, I think. And
bicycle, but
bicycle. Okay, and so even though some of us are in Southern Washington, it still encompasses our group because we race a lot in the area. So. It's a good group.
Yeah.
So they do a pretty good job of rolling things out. The unofficial season opener will be Jack Frost, and that's a time trial. Granted, it's not a road race, but it's kind of like the unofficial start to the season where you'll get a lot of people come out there to try that out. I mean, usually the time trials around here, 100, 125, 150 people on a good one. Last year they had over 300. I want to say it was 350 people.
Half of them were from our team.
Yeah, we had quite a few people out there.
I
think we set some records, but that's pretty much the unofficial start. The weekend after that, we will get into a race series called, it used to be a series. It's not a series anymore. It's just a single race. Dirty Circles. It used to be a 3-race series.
Is it called Dirty Circle now or Dirty Circles?
No, it's Dirty Circles because you do multiple laps of this one course. So it used to be the Dirty Circles race series, and it was 3 weekends in a row, which was a really nice early season deal. And you go out there and rack up the points over the 3-race series, and winner would get a nice little gift certificate somewhere. But now it's just a single race, which is still fun. And intents and purposes, it's one's enough. Doing that 3 weekends in a row, I'm not going to call it a boring course, but it's not anything that's really to want to go back and ride.
Yeah.
Just a little 6-mile flat loop. So. And then after that, they progressively start to get steeper and steeper. Now, the downside is this year we're missing some races that we had on the calendar last year. And it's just because we're dealing with rising costs. The promoters are putting on their races, and they are kind of rolling the dice as to whether or not they're even going to break even. And there's a couple races that a few promoters that I know did last year. They lost money. They lost several $1,000s. That's not good. We are also seeing lower numbers in road racing. I think from 2017 to 2018 it was about the same. We might even have like an uptick, just a tiny bit up, but still on the whole, if you look at the past like 5 years, the trend is going down, which is unfortunate. And you couple that with increasing prices or costs to get licensing and road permits and things of that nature. It's just kind of a bummer because it's gonna kill the sport if we don't do something. And from Ober's perspective, we're trying to do stuff. Me sitting on the board of directors and working with some other people, and we're trying to kind of insulate the promoters so that they're not getting into a situation where they're losing money. We're trying to come up with funds and being creative so that we can offset some of their costs so that they can either, break even if that's what they're okay with, or actually make some money for the time that they're putting into this, because it's a lot of work. I mean, ton of time. So anyway, getting back to your question, how does it unfold going into May? You just pretty much every single weekend, it seems like there's a race, and they will gradually get a little bit steeper and get a little bit longer and a little bit more grueling. And they'll basically wrap up sometime in May, if I'm not mistaken. You'll probably have,
as far as pure road races, the first one is Dirty Circles.
Yeah.
The next one after that is Piece of Cake, which is
the weekend after that.
It's the weekend after that. It's a circuit race.
it's a relatively flat course as well.
Relatively flat course, and then Kings Valley Road Race, which has some climbing in it.
That does have a hilltop finish, and that is a fun race. It's beautiful down there. Highly recommend that one.
And shortly after that, our PIR races start.
What weekend is the Kings Valley race?
It is April 13th. It's a Saturday race. And there's a bunch of mountain bike races and gravel races interspersed in there. I'm actually a little bummed because this weekend was supposed to be the first mountain bike race, but because of weather and snow, they postponed it 2 weeks. And I'm going to be in Hawaii the week it's going off.
You poor sap.
Are you bringing a bike to Hawaii?
I'll take a bike to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Do another 500 plus miles?
Something like that.
Go do that.
Haleakala repeats.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
it's like a 40-mile.
Go Everest Haleakala. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the highest paved road in America?
I thought that at one point in time, but I was corrected. I think it's the second highest, and
Second highest.
Okay. I can't remember where the other one's at, but
I know it's definitely one
up
of the
there.
most famous climbs.
We'll call it one of the top three.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It's tall.
Yeah.
But you'll climb. You'll climb in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Okay. Good work.
So, okay. So back to the road racing question. What is that? What you're curious about is just how the season.
Yeah, and
out?
that's for me as I get closer to my first race of the year, I'm going to be honest, and I kind of want to pose this question to everybody. I'm nervous to throw road racing into my training schedule right now for a couple of reasons, and the main reason is a crash. Like that's
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's number. I've put a lot of work going into this first race, and if I go down, I would be like pretty broken up about that. And two is, I definitely see the benefits of me doing it in between Galveston and Chattanooga, which would be the races through April and May.
Yeah.
Like April, May being that area when I hit it. But right now I'm not, I'd love to be convinced at this table to race in March, but I'm not positive if I should right now. So Dirty Circles would be one that I would definitely consider.
Here's my 2 cents on that. Dirty Circles, it's flat. What's good about that race, and with your ability level and the level that the category that you'll be racing at, and the fact that you'll have teammates, you can stay relatively insulated. You guys can work together and you can create breakaways. We had 2 or 3 races last year, categories out at Dirty Circles, where we had just flat out breakaways from the entire group. Yeah. And they were off to the races and they didn't have to worry about anything. Yeah. There's going to be a sprint finish there though, because it's flat. So that's typically where things go a little bit sideways. Yeah. We had the Piece of Cake road race in the 4.5s.
That one has a sprint finish too, doesn't it?
It has a tiny little uphill grade to it, but it's a sprint finish, and you're out of the saddle getting after it. And there was a crash there as well, and one of our teammates got tied up in that, which was unfortunate. It was Kurt Kritschko. Yeah. And there were some shenanigans there from the lower level riders crossing over center line and just doing some dumb stuff.
There was some really
not necessarily our teammates, but there was definitely people out there that were making bad decisions.
Because I would probably go and race. I know at Dirty Circles they only have a 1, 2, 3, and a 4, 5. Right? There's no 3, 4.
There's a 3-4, but it's Masters.
Okay,
I don't know.
Open.
There is a 3-4, but I'm not sure if it's on the Open night or not. So.
I think that's what David Goodman was saying. Is I don't think there's an Open 3-4 this year. I think it's going to be a 4-5.
There's a men's 4-5.
Yeah.
There's a Masters 35 plus.
Okay.
4-5.
So I'd be fine with jumping into the 4-5. What are my odds? I mean, like I've raced as a 3 for the years before when I was racing, so I would just have to downgrade with Obra down to a 4.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to register with them to begin with. And I think you can probably... That's a good question.
I just told him I could just ask him if I could start as a 4.
Let them know that you were a 3 with the USAC and you haven't raced in years and you would like to downgrade to a 4. And I'm pretty sure they'll let you do that because you don't have a lot of race history here.
Yeah.
So, but for you, I would recommend Hilltop finishes. Those are going to be great for you. And there are a fair amount of them here.
Yeah. My problem with the Kings weekend is we have a weekend planned up to go up to Seattle for a break from the from kind of the grind of training. Yeah. So because that would be the weekend after Galveston. I
feel
need
like that same weekend is the Spring Classic Duathlon, which is another race that you would like. I think it's the 13th as well.
Yeah, that's okay. I know you don't care. I need to get away from the training and the grind of it after that Galveston weekend. But
it's unfortunate, but totally makes sense.
Yeah.
You still have Montanore?
Yeah, I would love to jump into that one.
That's May 4th.
They may or may not put Barton Park on the schedule this year. I'm not 100%
I would love
sure.
To jump into that.
That's a great circuit race. It's another 6-mile lap, if I'm not mistaken, and they've got what's affectionately called the wall.
Yeah,
and you got to go up that thing probably 6 times.
Yeah.
That used to be 8 times, if I'm not mistaken, but they cut it back a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, another hilltop. Well, you got to get up that thing to get to the sprint, and the sprint's only like 50 meters long or 100 meters long or something like that once you get to the very top, but pretty much the sprint starts going up the hill.
Got it. Okay.
But there are quite a few hilltop finishes. Silverton's going to be another good one for you too.
Okay,
that one's a fantastic one.
See,
and that's the state championship
and that's perfect going into a race like Chattanooga that has a ton of climbing. So I think that's where I'm probably gonna. That April-May period is where I'm going to hit a lot of those types of road races. And
when's Silverton? Do you guys happen to?
June
15th.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be that'd be perfect timing. Yeah,
good.
That'd be a lot of fun.
So, yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with jumping into dirty circles. How I would handle it was just late. I would try and break away, and if it doesn't work, I would just drop out the back and not be involved in the sprint. Would probably be how it'd work out.
No, you wouldn't. You'd be right there.
That's 100% lie. Yeah, that is. That's a big lie.
It's definitely not worth you having a crash.
I know.
This is true.
I know.
Yeah.
You just got to play it out, you know.
Yeah.
And if it's just you and a bunch of other people and they seem like they've been a little squirrely, because you'll pick that up pretty soon. If they seem like they've been squirrely, then just let it go.
Yeah.
What about doing some time trialing?
That's what. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to get the BMC built up first, and then and then definitely jump into some. We'll see if I may not be able to have them before Jack Frost, but I may take the Shiv out to Jack Frost anyway just to test it out.
Because you can score points for the team, which was something I was pumped about last year. Like, I may not race well, but who cares if I score a couple points?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I want to go out there and help. I'm not sure how much I'll be able to help the team out, but I definitely want to go out and help the team and kind of get back into road racing. I've just got to be careful this year, I think, and that's what some people who were talking to me were saying, like, why are you going out there and risking that right before your first race? So but
cool.
Jack Frost should be safe. I mean, we can make it into a workout, and then I would
we'll just run off the bike with somebody.
There are people that crash in time trials, so
I've crashed in a time trial before. So
it's
fine.
Still, I mean, you still have to keep your head up and not stress too much about.
Yeah. I'll probably flat there. I've been consistently flatting out of Vancouver Lake, so.
Matt, what are you curious about, bud?
Well, we talked about one-by systems. I think one-by on a TT bike would be absolutely fantastic. So SRAM has a new one-by system, and it's one-by. Well, it doesn't have to be one-by, but they have a new series of components with a 12-speed rear cassette and either 1 or 2 in the front. And it looks fantastic. I think on a time trial bike, you could go 1x12 and have a pretty good range of gearing.
Gotcha.
I think you could climb with it. I think you'd be fine on, some really difficult courses like Whistler. Because Whistler is a ridiculous amount of climbing, I don't think I'm going to make any major changes at this point, but potentially like after Whistler, I could see myself kind of looking at something like that.
Sure.
Because most of the races you do are flat enough. And, having, 12 different gears, the ratios you can kind of set up, you can make most stuff work. So they have a thinner chain, and they've added a little bit of metal to the top of the chain. So it's kind of an odd looking chain, but I think it makes sense. And then obviously I love the idea of kind of like wireless shifting from, I think from a bike maintenance standpoint, if you're not running cables every which way, I think it's easier. And then, being able to shift from the hoods and then the aero bars is ideal as well. So
for sure.
Definitely from the hoods, that remote hood shifting
nice.
is awesome on the TT bike.
Super nice.
Mm-hmm. So from a gearing perspective,
right,
you've got a 1x12 setup, and we're getting away from 2x11, and now we're 2x12 or 1x12.
Right.
Rotor is coming out with their 1x13 in April.
Oh,
I thought they were, it's their hydraulic system.
Correct.
1x13.
And everybody's asking, well, why didn't they just go 1x14? Because if I'm not mistaken, it's a 1x14 setup that covers all of the gear ratios that you would find in a 2x11 setup. I think.
That's crazy.
Weight, is that why?
Well, it's probably spacing.
Spacing, weight.
It's that, but evidently there's something that's been hiding under our noses since 1999 that nobody really picked up on until just recently. And that's a patent held by Shimano.
Oh, okay.
So
did Shimano used to have a 1x14?
No, but they have a patent for it, and they've had it since 2019. And I'm sure that they're just playing the long game to get there by releasing, your 2x10, your 2x11, your 2x12, your 1x12, and then every time they release those iterations, they make more money until they get to that 1x14 scenario. And the question was, well, why didn't Rotor just jump the 1x13 since they're going to be the only ones out there, and nobody else is making any components that are going to sync up with that, because they need to have their own hub, they need to pretty much have their own wheel, and it's going to be a full proprietary system. Well, why didn't they just make the jump to 1x14 where you can cover all of those gear ratios? And evidently it boils down to what they're thinking is a patent held by Shimano that potentially got in their way. So,
well, I mean, I think it's interesting.
Just push the pedals harder. Who cares?
I know, right? I mean, like if you're skipping like one jump here and there, like I'm okay with that. It doesn't have to be a straight block. Like
somehow Eddie Merckx made it up.
Somehow
the Tour Flanders climbs each year
without
on a 9-speed.
But having like cassettes that are 10x30, like that's cool.
What they are. They've got a 10-tooth cog.
Yeah. That's what they're using. They're using 10 instead of 11 because you're going to go smaller in the front. Because you need to be able
60 miles an hour downhill.
Yeah.
That's why.
That's why.
Yeah.
60.
I mean, if you could control the bike while pedaling at 60 miles an hour, go for it.
Yeah. So I think I'm curious about it. I am interested. I probably would pull the trigger on something like that in the future. I'm guessing it'll be maybe next fall or next maybe like some sort of winter deal. Try and snag some sort of pricing deal, because the pricing on this stuff is the real kick in the pants.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It should not be priced that high.
The Rotor stuff, the low end drivetrain is $2,800.
Yeah,
but hold on, there's a caveat to that. That does include the wheel set. So
okay,
because
that's fair.
You need to make everything fit. If you want to get into their high end stuff to be comparable to say like Dura-Ace or the Red, you're looking at spending almost $5,000. But again, includes wheel set. So
yeah.
Wheel set and power mirror on that one. So
wow, yeah,
it's actually not
nice.
a terrible deal.
No, not terrible, but still, you're just talking
it's
about
expensive.
a freaking drivetrain.
It's expensive. Yeah.
Put that on a $4,000 frame set.
Oh yeah.
Here's what I think. I think if you're switching, if you're switching down to a 1x system, the price should basically drop, not in half, but pretty damn close, because you're losing a whole front derailleur.
Yeah.
Like I just think the pricing is not
That's another
fair.
reason why they're saying that Shimano is taking so long to do this, because they make a lot of money on front derailleurs.
Yeah. And how do you charge people when you're like, we're going to give you half of what you had before. Yeah. We want you to pay the same amount.
This is the problem with the cycling industry, I feel like. And this is after going to that Reno convention.
Yeah.
All the talks there they're like this masked positivity with this really underlying negativity of the cycling industry has screwed itself. Long term, it's overpriced itself, and its shops are suffering as a result. And they keep on. It's like the problem that medicine has right now. Medicine is saying we have an opioid epidemic, so we need to start investing in less expensive means of medicine. But they're cutting funding from things like physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. Well, the cycling world's saying we have this epidemic right now that people aren't racing, people aren't going to these racing events. Let's make it more expensive to get in.
This is true. I mean,
what are they doing? It's idiotic.
In that same paradigm, road bikes, it's not uncommon to spend, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, $12,000 on a road bike. And
what
then you got to go out there
do that?
and then you got to go out there and battle with all these freaking idiots driving in their cars, looking at their phones and running you over.
Yeah.
Well,
and then not get reimbursed when it breaks.
And then why don't you just go spend $2,500 on a gravel bike, go ride on gravel roads where there are no cars,
and not get hit by a car,
and have fun being out in the middle of nowhere, not dealing with pollution and population.
Yeah.
The only downside to that is that you're secluded if something does go sideways. But I would love to see some technology that allows me to better communicate with everybody where I'm at in case something goes wrong. So.
And this is, I mean, the Matt, like we know, like the triathlon world's got the same thing. Aerodynamics are everything in triathlon.
Yeah.
To get fast on a bike right now is costing you a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got, I mean, we want to keep on going faster and everything, but.
And you want the sport to do well, right?
Yeah.
Like you want people,
Yeah.
like, and I feel like people are leaving triathlon in droves and the sport's drying up. And this is just kind of like my general, stepping back and looking at things does not look good. And how do you tell someone like, hey, try triathlon? You need $1,000 minimum to just scrape by on, I mean, and that's going to get you, in a race and be able to get you to the finish line. But you're going to be the guy on, the mountain bike or the guy that's not. I mean, obviously, you're not going to be competitive or whatever it is.
No.
Like that's crap.
I have a question for you though.
$1,000.
How is Xterra doing in comparison to say triathlon?
I've heard Xterra's growing actually.
They've done okay, but I don't think they're doing unbelievably well. They're not. It's not like so in my opinion, like you look at what's going on in cycling, like gravel bike races and gravel events, that's blowing up. It looks like it's like that's going to be. I feel like it kind of has that feeling of cyclocross where it's like people are excited about this, like this is going to do well. I don't see that with Xterra in triathlon. I think people are
long distance in triathlon's growing still. Ironman participation's growing, but the local races are the ones that are struggling. I think we're lucky to be in a region where we have Y Triathlon, which is killing it, and they're awesome. I mean, they're great,
our region is doing just fine.
If you look at it nationally, though,
I'm thinking more nationally. Yeah, like it just doesn't look like it's doing great, and we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. We're trying.
Yeah. So one by drivetrain. That's what you're.
I'm interested. I mean, there's other things too. Like there's some really cool tools right now, and I can't remember any specific company names, but there's 2 or 3 companies that are making these little aerodynamic sticks that go on the front of your bikes. You might not have seen this, but it's pretty cool. And basically, you're measuring stuff. You're getting like weather information, and then you're getting basically. The actual wind information, and it's basically kind of giving you an estimate, or I think it's a pretty decently accurate like CDA number, and you can get a live feed of that.
That's like your own wind tunnel right there without a trip to San Diego. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. It's kind of like the idea of your own wind tunnel information on every ride, and you can kind of see how tucking your head and things like that are affecting it.
Would it work if you put like a home fan in front of you?
I have no idea.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's probably using like GPS too to get your speed and all that, because I think that would come into. So if you're going 0 miles an hour with the fan there,
you're not getting any information out of that. Yeah,
it's pretty tricky. But no, I think that stuff is coming out this year. Basically, there's some interesting stuff. Like you can purchase it now, but like one of the companies is selling that particular device along with going to a camp where you learn how to use it correctly. Because I think these things are not quite, they're not user friendly. But then, I mean, like this is an inevitable Garmin purchase / they're going to have their own device, where you can add it to all your other series of Garmin devices. And I think definitely from a triathlon perspective or time trial perspective, it would be a hugely valuable tool, because you can test your gear and you can see if it's, if one helmet is faster than another. And that is very, a lot of that gearing is very specific to like you as a person and your like the way you are set up on the bike and how it interacts with your clothes and like all this weird stuff. And so it's very hard to like say just grab something off the shelf and say this will make me faster. You don't know until you've tested it in a wind tunnel, and none of us are going to a wind tunnel, I don't think. No. So it would be interesting on a road bike too, like for you to say like, hey, if I put my head in this position, it's a free 10 watts. Like that's for a lot, and so it's kind of like you learn a couple little things like that, and then, from there, who knows?
Definitely.
Good.
So we'll see those tools.
I've got a couple things here, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and Lance has already alluded to it one other time in this conversation today. the devices that are tracking recovery, that is of interest to me because I think that there's a huge play there, because I think that people classically don't recover enough, and they don't have a good way of determining, other than like they feel like utter crap, and sometimes that's pretty much too late. Lance, the Whoop strap, you've now been using it for how long?
Like 4 weeks.
What's your impression? Because when we first talked about it, I think it was pretty early on with you starting to use it. And at the training camp, you and Chris Surratt were basically comparing numbers all day long, and I kept like just paying attention and trying to soak up like what you guys had to say about that. Do you think that is a valid device? Do you think that you're getting valid numbers? And do you think it's worth the subscription fee that you have to pay to use it?
So far, it's been great for me, better than I expected. One of the things that worried me was, what if I wake up in the morning and I don't have a good sleep or good rest, and my recovery number is crap?
Yeah.
And I've got some big plan for the day, because that happened twice during training camp. I woke up in the red, which is take a day off.
Yeah.
And I did not take a day off. I went out for 80 miles and 8,500 feet of climbing, and I still felt decent. I didn't feel great. So that's what worried me initially, is what if I get this signal that I'm not doing well, and I need to go out anywhere. You have a big race the next day.
Sure.
But what it's helped me focus on, and which I never really have, is really the quality of sleep that I'm getting, and how much good sleep affects your recovery. And I have always ignored that. 8 hours of sleep is for, lazy people and suckers.
This is a culture. So this is a cultural thing to talk about, though, because that's that has been a thing, like a pop culture thing. If you're sleeping a lot, that's laziness. When really we need to be looking at it as, it can definitely make you better at what you do if you're sleeping. Like, I hear not to talk down patients, I hear so many patients who come in who I'll just say are not excelling in what they're doing, we'll say. And they're almost bragging to me that they're sleeping only 4 or 5 hours a night. Yeah. And I almost want to look at them and be like, why are you that's not something you should be bragging about. It's
not a badge of honor.
First off, there's no reason for you to be up at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
There's not. What are you doing? Sitting there watching Netflix?
Finish your TV show.
Finish your TV show, turn it off, and go to bed. Like, be a gosh darn adult. And it's like, you
are such an old person.
I know. Well, no, if you suck during the day.
No, I'm just joking.
Like, it's almost like a built-in excuse at that point. You're like, oh, well, I'm really tired and suck today because I only slept 4 hours. Like, well, why'd you sleep 4 hours? Like, you're an adult. Go to bed earlier.
Yep.
Now, when you were in Lance's situation, when he was training for an Ironman, owned multiple dental clinics, and had a family, there's your reasoning. But if you have the availability to sleep more, like you said, like, it's not weakness. It's being smart about it.
Correct. Yeah. And that's a different mindset for me entirely. I used to think I can get by on 5 hours of sleep. I'm going to be fine getting by on 5 hours of sleep. And was I able to run my businesses and train and do all those things okay? Yeah. Could I have been so much better if I was getting 8 hours of sleep? Yes, I would have.
Or even 7.
Or even 7?
Yeah.
I would have been even more clear-headed. I would have had even better quality training.
You would have just felt better, too. So think about how much stress you had in your life.
Right.
There. Yeah.
So that was the thing. That's the thing that I like about the Whoop strap so far, is it's really made me focus on my recovery and what I'm doing. Because you wear this band all day long that measures your heart rate all day long, your body temperature. It measures your heart rate variability all day long, and as you're doing that, you get full day numbers. You don't wear a chest strap all day long. It's driving freaking crazy. This has taken me a bit to get used to.
So I'm sure that they can grow upon that too, because all they're doing is basing it off of heart rate, correct?
Heart rate and body temperature. It measures those two things, and it measures heart rate variability. It's proprietary, the sensors in here. Yeah.
Gotcha. Evan, what could they do to that to make it even more?
This is, let's jump into the future, Lance, here. Like, thinking medically, they could.
If it could
O2 sensor or something like that?
If they could track your endocrine system somehow, if there's some way that they could track, because that or
lactic acid levels.
Yeah, because to me it's heart rate can only give you so much information. And the body temperature, I don't know about the body temperature. I feel like that's just they're just collecting data and kind of stabbing at that. I feel like there's so much variability in body temperature between,
Yeah, but if you wear it and it's,
it can create an average, I guess. But
you're talking long term.
Yeah.
If they could track lactic acid levels, if they could track blood glucose levels,
So
I would want to know insulin levels too. Yeah. Blood glucose.
Those things,
insulin levels.
and those are all blood tests at this point.
Well,
Garmin's going to make us swallow a pill at some point. That's going to be measuring like your cortisol levels too, or something crazy.
There are a number of companies that do continuous blood glucose monitoring.
Yeah.
So you basically you're using an implant, basically a small piece. And you're getting a continuous number. You eat a donut, you see a spike. Like you will.
Can I be the old guy again here for a second? This is a number overload. I feel like this.
Not if you're diabetic.
Yeah.
Well, no. I'm talking about from a training perspective. If you were diabetic, yes, that is an important number to know.
Well, and that's what that's targeting.
Yeah, but you're also you're talking about people who are trying to go from elite level to super elite level, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to get that extra 2% or 1% that's going to help in that, last sprint of a 110-mile race.
Yeah, this is true.
Well, and I also think with any of this stuff, right? Like so Lance could stop wearing the Whoop strap and he could be a better athlete because he wore it for a month and a half or 2 months. Same thing with continuous blood glucose monitoring. You wear it for 3 or 4 months. You start to realize like, okay, I can have a cup of coffee, no problem.
The creamer puts me over the top.
Or whatever. Like you start to see patterns, and then you change your lifestyle, or it's like that donut, it's not worth it, like or whatever. Like so then all of a sudden, or maybe it is, right? So like you could look at your numbers and you can make that decision.
Yeah.
Without those numbers, you're just taking a shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Like we all look at power meters, and there's so many people that are like, power meters are stupid, blah, 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 blah. We all use them for training.
Right.
And I feel like you start to get a feel too with power meters where it's like, hey, like in an Ironman race, I know that if I go out a little bit more reasonable, climb at a certain intensity, like that's going to be a more ideal situation for me. If you took the power meters off our bike, we would race smarter because we have had power meters in the past.
Right.
So, I think that, explore new technology, be skeptical. I love the concept of like leaving stuff at home a lot of times and not using it. But, but there's definitely some interesting tools that are definitely coming down the pipeline for athletes.
So would you say that there's going to be a day and time where we will have like your little cyborg cyclists out there running around with implants in them, like basically measuring all the different metrics that are going on from a physiological standpoint? So
that won't be me, but yes, I think that day's coming.
That could be quite interesting.
Here's the thing: are we already there? Don't we have power meters? And
sort of, but
think about this compared to the 1980s. I mean, really think about how a cyclist trained in the 1980s. If you put that now compared to like what Lance is doing with like the Whoop, power meter, and Lance, I would consider to be somebody who is like in the median of people who look at numbers, probably.
Right.
I mean, we know people who are like
more obsessed.
They're weighing the grams of stuff. You know, I mean, they're weighing grams. They probably already have they've been to wind tunnels. They know their numbers. They're probably monitoring their blood glucose,
weighing their food and things like that. We've seen that in the past.
What if you had a screen on your Garmin that showed stuff like what your blood insulin level is, what your lactic acid levels are, what your hydration levels are, and all of these
instead
things.
Of a heart rate number? Yeah. What if we had like you are at this percentage of your lactate threshold at this moment? Good God, like that. I mean, an actual measurement of that, not like the heart rate guesstimated one, like an actual number.
Well, I think there's more science to this that we're not super privy to, right? Like how to measure blood lactate acid. I mean, you can do a blood test for that, but isn't
you should just do earlobe pricks. I mean, that was what we did back in
but those are still not the best estimates. Don't they usually want to measure like how much lactic acid is in the muscle versus like circulating in the blood? Which you can't do.
It's just a byproduct. Yeah. Right? So you can't do it. Yeah.
So I just think. I don't think that we're that far away from being able to monitor some of this stuff. I think that we could probably do a lot of that stuff today.
I'm sure a lot of it's out there. Yeah.
Right. But
would you guys get an implant?
If
it became available technology.
Never. If somebody told me you will win this race if you do this and you get these implants and you watch these numbers, I would not do it. I don't care.
My lawn.
I don't
with your technologies.
Because I love. So this goes to my core belief with endurance sports. I go off like the Eliud Kipchoge like sort of mindset.
Sure.
He is like he had to be forced in this like Nike project. He was accepting of it, but he himself actually did not look at a lot of the numbers. He let the other people around him look at the numbers. when I'm training as an endurance athlete, it's to get to know my body better.
Sure.
Like that is why I do it, is so that I can understand like my true limits, like my perception of my limits, what I'm able to push myself to and like grow as an endurance athlete. These numbers make it.
But the point you're doing that is so that during a race,
Yeah.
you know how hard I can push and where I have to back off, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you know what your body feels like.
Yeah.
I mean, in the beginning, you're going to be stabbing in the dark. You're going to be
Yeah.
You're going to be figuring trial and error, figuring
Yeah.
this out, and you're never going to truly know. You're going to get close though.
Yeah.
If you had the science, it's going to quantify
Yeah.
your feelings, and you're like,
And
all
this,
right.
and this is ironic for me, I know, because I have like an exercise physiology degree and love this stuff. And I
Sure.
look at these numbers and I measure it in people, and
Right.
I see the benefit. This is the complex of like, this is the stuff I would talk to my patients and like push them towards. But like, I would never tell any of my patients to do the style that I do of anything.
Sure.
And that's the biggest hypocritical thing of all time. I will definitely assess myself and say that's amazingly hypocritical.
But I think that's okay. Like,
But-
I mean,
but that's-
you're in it for different
that's
reasons.
how I get that's how I get fulfillment out of
You're
it. I would
also
say.
not really there for the health benefits, to be honest.
No,
You
no.
want to do.
I want to be
you wanna
fast.
do well.
Yeah. And this is to me, I get fulfillment out of it staying away from the numbers. I know for my mental health, when I start to delve into the numbers and get too obsessed with the numbers, that's when I get not happy with the sport and I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
So like for me, if they were handing out implantable chips, I was like, no, that's okay. I don't care if this helps me win. I'm
So
hard pass on it.
Hard
Yeah.
pass, hard no. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I find like I'm partially in Evan's camp of like, get off my lawn, kids. But
They did this for years without this
so,
stuff.
So yeah, so like running, like I just grew up running. Like
Yeah.
didn't wear a watch a lot of times.
Yeah.
You just go run and you got faster. And so there's a purity to that for sure. And I also but I like to test out new things, right? Like so there's a power meter for runners called the Stride Power Meter.
I'm interested by the Stride Power Meter.
Borrow mine because I sure as hell don't use it, right? Like it's like
I'm very interested by it. But yeah.
borrow it. I mean, take it and play with it and stuff like that. It's just like, it's just not that good. And I want to like it because it's, you know, it's techie or whatever. And people are super interested in it because it's super techie. But like, honestly, like
From a testing point of view, for like somebody with me who like works with runners, it's useful. But yeah,
sure.
for like
you wanna
grand
get faster
purchase,
and
for like grand purchase, it's tough right now. They got some work to do.
it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you know, you want to use it to pace yourself on hilly runs and stuff like that, just like you would use the power meter for biking. And I'm a big believer in power meters for bikes, but like, you know, I put this thing on or whatever, and I just don't use the data. I just flat out don't use the data. I did make a YouTube video on the Stride Power Meter. You can check it out on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/mlegrand. That's probably one of my most popular videos because people want to know about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, anyway, I go through and I said, this is a fantastic product. It's very well built, blah, 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 blah. Keep going on, you know, very positively about it. But should you buy it? Probably not.
I think it's a lot like the Whoop strap too. I'll put like Stride, Whoop, and a lot of these things. I think this is the data collection era right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
And I don't think that these have the answers. I think that the technology is awesome and something like Stride can develop to be good.
But if you use that data, well, here's the thing. It's like, so I collected a whole bunch of data. I wore it for a year, just didn't use the data.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's not worth my time of adding extra weight to my foot or whatever. The Whoop data, like if you're using it to change things, then great. Like if there was an implant, I would probably, especially like blood glucose implant, like I'm super interested in that one because my sugar numbers and stuff like that are all out of whack and stuff like that. So it's like monitor this stuff absolutely as long as it doesn't get in your way. Whereas like when you're swimming and you're biking and you're running hard and stuff like, I don't understand how some of the continuous blood glucose monitors would handle that very well, you know. So it's a matter of like the technology advancing. So would I do an implant? Yes.
Yep.
The answer would be yes to that, and I might not do it forever, you know, depending on like if it was like you have to have this forever, then I might be like no. But like if it's like, hey, you wear this thing just like the blood glucose monitors, then I would consider trying that for sure.
What if Garmin was able to track where you are with it? Seriously,
That's good
Yeah.
question.
So if you're,
I mean, like
you might
GPS
as well
track you?
how close are we getting to 1984 here? I mean, really?
Well, here's the thing, like,
I mean, really?
because then if you can take all of this, you know, stuff off your
Yeah.
watch, and you don't have to wear a watch, and you just have this in one spot, whether that's kind of at your belly, basically, is where they do the current stuff now.
And you just got a little, maybe just a watch that shows you the data, or even those, if anybody's seen the glasses that project it in front of you.
The data is there. I'm okay with Garmin. I mean, obviously, I'm wearing a Garmin watch. Does Garmin know where I am? Not really.
Do they? I don't know.
They don't know where I am right now because I'm not using the GPS at this point. But Apple knows where I am.
Yeah.
So
this is true.
We're already there. It's just a matter of moving the technology to different spots, and if that makes it
Inside
easier
of you. Oh my gosh.
I just don't. Well, yes, but you can take those pieces out or whatever. It just needs access to your blood. Sounds scary, but my question is
some
like
bad sci-fi movie waiting to happen right now.
My issue is really like the logistics of it, where it's like, hey, how's the swimming going to work out? Like that's what I'm worried about. Like other than that, I'd be fine with it. So.
Yeah. Right.
Lance.
Oh yeah.
God, Lance, come on, man! I was so sure
No.
that you were going to be on my side here.
I'm the old guy with disposable income. I'm looking for every advantage I can find that is legal.
It's an implantable device. What are you doing? Like this is...
Evan, I will say you're the only reasonable person here.
That is also true.
But Jake, what do you think?
I would do it just because
my
I
God.
like metrics numbers. Yep.
I want the blood.
We're all a
so
yes,
bad.
and Evan is not accepting that.
How is the only millennial at this table the one who's like, screw that? I would never let somebody put that in.
I don't want it to be permanent. I'm just curious. I want to know. And if I can fine tune things, if I can get to know myself even better, and if I can make myself a little bit stronger and faster for sake of the sport that I love, I'm all about it.
Jake always makes it sound reasonable, but I'm going to jump way over on the other side of the fence here.
I would say you're the reasonable one at the table. But
Jake can always make something like this seem reasonable to me, though.
The other thing is I think that when you're monitoring blood and things like that, there's some potential real health benefits for like living longer with your life.
Yeah.
What if it tests,
cholesterol,
food reactions and food allergies?
We could find intolerances
what if
and
it
stuff
tests
like that. Yeah.
Testosterone levels and what you're doing in your life that increases those, because that's concern for older people.
Yeah.
What if it tests lactic acid levels and glucose levels and cortisol levels? What if you got all those numbers and you could find out what things you do during the day, what things you eat, what things you don't eat, how your fasting affects it, how it doesn't affect it, those things.
For you three, that's great. Let me tell you something from me here. All three of you know what stresses me out here. Numbers. So you know what increases cortisol? Having that thing in me. So there you go.
Those numbers. Chip in there. We'll just tell you, like, hey, Evan, do this tomorrow. Don't eat that.
While I'm sleeping.
Do this.
We already. If you
guys could put it in me without me knowing and just tell me, like, hey, Evan, you been sleeping okay lately? Like, start to do that.
Cyber coach.
That'd be good. But if I knew it was in me, no, my training would go to it would tank.
All right. Any last little things you guys want to bring up in this curiosity factor?
I think we've talked about enough.
Yeah. Flew off the rails in that last one.
My mind is racing with like George Orwell sort of like issues with this entire thing. But
I'm going to toss one more out there. I'm going to put a time limit on this thing.
Okay.
I'm very curious about smart vehicles and their ability to sense their surroundings, more specifically cyclists, and being able to.
Was this Tesla that was coming out with this technology?
I don't know.
So,
Matt, what do you know?
I can speak to this. So any autonomous vehicles that are being used, and they are being used on the roads right now, they're testing all of this stuff, have to be able to sense for pedestrians and cyclists. So any of your stuff where it's like kind of assisted cruise control does not have to have that particular like functionality. So for example, like the Tesla or whatever, so you can be on a road or whatever, and you can kind of like set it to like automatic drive. And it's basically looking at like lanes and cars in front of it and things like that. But it's not like fully autonomous. Like it can't go and make the right turn for you or avoid, pedestrians or cyclists or anything like that. So
that's terrifying.
Yeah. It's a little bit scary, but at the same time, like it still might be better than a lot of the people on their phones on the road. But there are other companies. There's a company called like Waymo and things like that. That's kind of like Google's, self-driving car vehicle, stuff like that. And those guys are using slightly different technology where they're sensing basically everything, and they're building more of a picture of what's on the road. It's different sensors basically, where you're really talking about like not having a driver at all, like just having passenger seats inside the vehicle. And those are sensing for all kinds of different things. dog runs out into the road, like
be awesome.
It could
be a lot better than people driving out there.
Yeah, and there's still the laws currently are like you can apply for testing of those vehicles on the roads, but you cannot. There's there are some trucking companies and things like that are using some stuff, but it's not ready. I still think we're 10 years away from.
I wouldn't want that to end up if that took away the jobs from the trucking industry. I feel like that would be very difficult.
That's
on
the
people.
Fear. That
I'm not sure if I'd like. I know that's
go
tough. That
down.
would suck.
You're going to lose some truck drivers. That's coming.
That's
coming.
It's the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's gonna be a job that can get automated. That's a shame. But
that's inevitable. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And this has happened in history in the past, right?
So, absolutely.
So you think
if you're shoeing horses, your job is gone.
Yeah.
So 10 years ish, you think we'll have something out there?
I think basically it'll be interesting to see how the technology comes into the marketplace, because it's going to be really expensive. It's one thing if you're a trucking industry and you're, that's a little bit more of a no-brainer. But if Jake's thinking about buying a car and it can drive itself for, like his daughter, it's important or whatever. But if the price is astronomical, which it will be at first, at some point, like there's a tipping point for how, you'll see, 30% of the cars on the road are driving themselves, and it's a little weird. That's the stuff that I think is kind of like, I'm not sure how that's going to roll out. And that's probably 7 years away as opposed to 10. And then all of a sudden you have that tipping point and it's like, nope, the prices have come down and you kind of need this to be safe, because at some point they're just going to look at the numbers and they're going to be like, people die when they don't have this technology. Yeah. So it's going to be a law or whatever it is. So who knows? Who knows on time frames?
Interesting. All right.
It'll be easier to bike, I think, at that point.
I'm hoping so.
This topic should have been like renamed like a peek into the future, or like a terrifying peek into the future.
I think right now is the most.
Or Evan's worst nightmare.
Evan's worst nightmares. Yeah.
Check Evan's heart rate right now. How elevated is that?
My cortisol levels. If I had that little implant, right? Yeah. Can you guys see it on your computers right now?
We gotcha.
It's spiking.
We know where you are.
All right, let's get into one last thing. Matt, would you care to start us off on one last thing?
Yes. I think I promised at one point to post some video of the training camp, and I haven't done it yet, but it is on my list. Go to my channel and subscribe, and you will be notified of whenever I post something about the training camp. I think I'm going to do, 1 or 2 videos, kind of talking about it in total, and you'll get to see.
I'm excited for that.
You'll get to see the house. You'll get to see people on bikes. You'll get to see all that stuff. Fun times for sure.
Gotcha. Evan, one last thing.
One thing for all the tri-geeks out there, Super League Singapore, the grand finale was this last weekend. Get on the YouTube and watch it. I won't ruin anything from it because it's definitely worth it. The racing's just so awesome.
How much time is it? Can you watch a whole? Is it like a?
The races are only 20-30 minutes long, so you can
thinking about like a trainer ride.
Yeah,
right? Like,
women's and men's race were awesome. The women's race was incredibly tight in one of those races.
Cool.
It was worth the watch. So I will not ruin it.
Okay.
Get on your bikes, watch it. It's perfect for that 20-30 minute range in time. And also, we had a tri meeting on Saturday, Matt.
How did that go?
So many people showed up.
Sorry, I missed it.
A lot. I think it was like 30-some people showed up.
Wow.
It was awesome. The kits look great. They fit amazingly well. The people are really cool. We got a lot of new members, which is good. A lot of faces I didn't recognize, which is great.
Wish I could have been there.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun year, definitely. Definitely.
Excellent. Lance, one last thing.
We alluded to a story last week a couple of times, and we never actually finished it. We were talking about the broken cleat, and we kept getting derailed. We never actually
we were so
finished that story. So, Evan, for you.
I'm out of this, yeah.
It was on day 5 or something like this.
Like that, yeah.
It was on day 5, and we were having sprint competitions also during the day, where anytime there was a stop ahead sign, you would sprint for it. And we had green jersey or green sock competition for whoever won the most sprints.
I did see the competitions. Yeah. That was cool. Yeah.
So it always ended up kind of being a fight between me and Chris Surratt. We always were battling. And we rolled up. We came up to, we could see a stop ahead sign coming, and I went to jump really hard to get a jump on him because he didn't look like he was ready for it, and I ripped my cleat right. I broke my cleat on my shoe.
The nose of the Lokio cleat that he uses just snapped right off.
I snapped it right off.
So the part that engages on the front, yeah.
That's very impressive.
So it wasn't like, I didn't just like unclip, I like broke it.
Did you get to look at the power numbers at that?
No, Well, it was over like 1,200 watts. It wasn't,
Okay.
huge. I think I had damaged the cleat at some point, and it just gave at that point. And I had to ride to a bike shop and buy new cleats. I couldn't clip in the rest of the day until I got to a bike shop. Anyway, so
Yeah, it was a little bike shop down in Torrey Pines. What was Cycle Works?
Cycle Quest.
Quest, that's it.
Cycle Quest.
Yeah.
Shout out to Cycle Quest.
Cycle Quest.
Down in San Diego. Yeah, it's a little like commuter bike store. That's primarily what they had. Is like commuters and maybe a couple gravel bikes in there too.
And we rolled in with 18 people.
Yeah. And the lady that runs the shop got all excited, like, "Oh my gosh, look at all
And
these
you
cyclists!"
bought a cleat from
Bought
this
a cleat.
poor store.
I bought a pair of socks as
that's
well.
nice. That's nice.
Because there was a yellow jersey, yellow socks competition, and I had them for like 3 days, and I stained them, I chain marked them, and I bled on them. So I had to buy new yellow socks to replace them for the competition.
Yeah.
So-
And then she came outside and she asked if she could take our picture. She wanted to put us up on her Instagram account.
Yeah.
So
That's
that was
cool.
kind of cool. Yeah,
That's
it was neat.
cool. Yeah.
Dialed Cycling Team.
There you
Visit
go.
Cycle Quest.
Yeah,
that
Dialed
was,
cycling team of Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
That
Where are you guys
that
from?
was funny.
yeah. So that was my broken cleat story that I never got to finish last
Very
week.
cool.
Yeah. My one last thing is we've got things coming up. We've got our team's Zwift ride tomorrow night, which will be Tuesday. We record this on Monday. So on Tuesday night, that will be coming up. You'll be listening to this after the fact. So the following Tuesday will be, I think, one of our last ones of the winter season because the time changes on March 10th, which is coming up pretty
Thank
darn
God.
soon. Yes. So if we get some bad weather, it might kind of continue on for a little bit longer, but we've only got a few handful of those left. Come join us on those Zwift rides because they are great training rides.
Good fun.
Yeah, good fun. We've got Jack Frost time trial coming up. That is, again, we talked about this earlier. That's the kind of the unofficial official kickoff of the road season, and that will be on the 10th, which is going to be the same day that time changes on March 10th.
March 10th.
And then I am going to be planning a team ride, hopefully for this coming weekend, kind of like what we did last year to kind of go out and preview the flat area, which we've done that ride a few times and everybody knows it pretty well. But going out to Vancouver Lake and rolling through the Jack Frost time trial, then adding on some more miles and just getting a good workout in for the team. We did it last year. It was fun. We went out there and everybody kind of dropped the hammer on the course, and then we rode together for the rest of the ride, and there was lots and lots of flats, but it was lots of fun. So
Evan, if you come on that,
I was
please bring
just
new
about to
tires.
say.
yeah.
Put new tires
has-
on before you come on that.
He has new tires. They're the same age as he is.
Yeah. Duct taped up and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're
God.
like 30-year-old tires.
Speaking of that, Jake, I got to go in the garage and work on it. I got to get that bike.
Yeah. It's been in
alive.
my house for like a month.
I know. It's been there 3 weeks now. 3 weeks. It's
Yeah.
been in Jake's garage.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's about it, guys. It was a great week. I hope you guys all didn't mind us rambling on too much about this training camp. It was just so much fun. I wish that more people could have come. And
Good times.
if you're on a team and you are curious about this kind of stuff, reach out to us and talk to us about questions, because if you set something up, I guarantee you're going to have a blast. And there's so many cool places, and it doesn't have to cost a ton of money. You can do stuff relatively local, make it just a driving destination as opposed to get on an airplane. But yeah, we really had a good time. Evan, we missed you. Next year you got to somehow figure out how to get down there.
I gotta figure out how to get more PTO, guys.
You got to open up your own shop or something.
Seriously.
Yeah. But, all right. Well, I appreciate the time with you guys as always. It's a blast. Everybody who's been listening to us out there, thank you very much. Feel free to chime in on any of our social networks at Dialed Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Say hi to us, ask us questions, and if you guys have some topics out there that you'd like us to discuss or cover, or if you have questions for us, chime in. Let us know. We'd be happy to talk to them. All right. You guys have a good week.
Woo.
Everybody
Thanks, Jake.
listen. Bye for now.
I held that pee the whole time.
I know. I didn't.